Temperatures plummet to 9 to 11 degrees colder than today. Massive glaciers crush everything in their path. Woolly mammoths tower over the frozen landscape. Saber-toothed cats prowl through blizzards. And somewhere in this frozen nightmare, our ancestors are not just surviving, they're thriving. While every other human species on Earth vanishes into extinction, Homo sapiens does something extraordinary. They conquer the ice. But how? Let's learn how early humans didn't just survive the Ice Age, they mastered it. You're standing on a wind-blasted plain 24,000 years ago. The world around you is almost unrecognizable. Vast ice sheets blanket North America and Northern Europe. The temperature has dropped by 4 degrees Celsius globally. In some places, it's 9 to 11 degrees colder than what you know today. This is the last glacial maximum, the peak of the most recent Ice Age. The coldest, harshest period Earth has experienced in hundreds of thousands of years. And here's the mind-blowing part. Your ancestors, Homo sapiens, had already been around for about 300,000 years at this point. Now they've spread across the globe, living in places that should kill them. The Neanderthals, those robust, cold-adapted humans who'd been surviving in Europe for hundreds of thousands of years, they went extinct around 40,000 years ago. Almost all other human species disappeared too. Only one species made it through. Us. So what made the difference? Let's talk about the biggest challenge first. The cold. Not just chilly weather. Brutal, bone-breaking, life-threatening cold that could kill you in hours. Early humans needed protective clothing. When humans first migrated to northern climates about 45,000 years ago, they created rudimentary animal hides draped over the body. But as the Ice Age intensified, they needed better solutions. The game changer? The eyed needle. This tiny innovation appeared around 40,000 years ago in southern Siberia. Before eyed needles, humans used bone awls to punch holes in animal hides and thread sinew through them. The eyed needle combined piercing and threading into one efficient motion. Suddenly, humans could create fine, tight stitches and make fitted, tailored clothing that actually conformed to the shape of their bodies. Fitted clothing with multiple layers trapped air near the skin, reducing heat loss dramatically. This wasn't just comfort, it was survival engineering. Recent archaeological discoveries in Wyoming revealed something extraordinary. Ice Age humans in North America, living almost 13,000 years ago, crafted needles from the bones of foxes, hares, rabbits, bobcats, mountain lions, lynx, and even the now extinct American cheetah. The clothing they made was comparable to garments worn by the Inuit, complex outfits fringed with the furs of red fox, hare, and cat, designed to withstand temperatures around 9 to 11 degrees colder than today. At Camerngrubegraben in Austria, archaeologists uncovered dozens of eyed bone needles at a site dating to between 24,000 and 20,000 years ago, right at the heart of the last glacial maximum. Reindeer skulls at the site still had their antlers attached, proving the animals were hunted specifically in winter. Why? Because reindeer winter pelts provide exceptional insulation and are waterproof. These Ice Age communities were strategically targeting specific animals at specific times of year for their superior cold weather materials. But clothing was only part of the survival equation. Humans also needed shelter. They built sturdy rock shelters by making extensive modifications to natural features. They'd find a depression in a cliff face, then drape large animal hides from the overhangs to block piercing winds. Inside, they constructed tent-like structures made of wooden poles covered with sewn hides. Everything centered around a blazing hearth that reflected heat and light off the rock walls. These weren't crude camping spots. These were engineered survival habitats. During the brief summer months, when hunters moved onto the open plains stretching from the Atlantic coast of Europe all the way to Siberia, they needed mobile shelters. The solution? Dome-shaped huts partially dug into the earth with frameworks built from a latticework of mammoth bones, covered with sod or animal hides. Houses made from mammoth bones that could be occupied for months. Speaking of mammoths, the Ice Age was populated by creatures that would seem like monsters by today's standards. Woolly mammoths stood 9 to 14 feet tall and weighed 6 to 10 tons. They had long, curved tusks that grew up to 8 to 9 feet long for males. Their blood had special adaptations, almost like antifreeze, that kept it flowing in extreme cold. Saber-toothed cats prowled the landscape. The most famous species, Smilodon, had muscular builds and long, curved canine teeth designed for taking down massive prey. They hunted in packs using ambush tactics. Giant ground sloths stood nearly 12 feet tall. Dire wolves hunted in packs across the grasslands. The list goes on. Early humans lived alongside all of these creatures. They competed with them. They hunted them. And sometimes they were hunted by them. So how did humans manage to not just coexist but dominate? The answer is our brains, specifically our big, creative, incredibly adaptable brains. According to Brian Fagan, an emeritus professor of anthropology at the University of California, Santa Barbara, the most important advantage was the ability to plan ahead, to think strategically, to solve problems before they became life or death emergencies. Humans didn't just react to their environment, they anticipated it. Through music, dance, and art, our ancestors collected and transmitted vast amounts of information about the seasons, edible plants, animal migrations, and weather patterns. This wasn't entertainment. This was survival education. The elaborate cave paintings at sites like Lascaux and Chauvet in France display the intimate understanding that Ice Age humans possessed about the natural world. When modern wildlife biologists look at those paintings of reindeer and bison, they can tell what time of year the animal was painted just from the appearance of its hide. That's how detailed the knowledge was. This period corresponds with the Upper Paleolithic, which lasted from 40,000 to 10,000 years ago. Humans made enormous leaps forward in tool making and weaponry. They created the first tools used exclusively for making other tools. One of the most important was the burin, a type of rock chisel used to cut grooves into bones and antlers. This allowed for the creation of intricate, lightweight spearheads and harpoon tips, marking one of the first instances of detachable and interchangeable technology. But even sophisticated hunting weapons had limitations. They were useless outside of close-range attacks, which sometimes required hunters to leap onto the backs of massive, dangerous animals. So humans used intelligence and planning to reduce the danger. At one famous hunting ground in eastern France, Ice Age hunters developed an ingenious strategy. Every fall and spring, they built fires to corral migrating herds of wild horses and reindeer into a narrow valley. Once in the corral, the animals could be safely killed at close quarters, harvesting an abundance of meat that was then dried. Archaeological evidence shows that this well-coordinated slaughter continued for tens of thousands of years, passed down from generation to generation. This brings us to perhaps the most crucial survival advantage: language. By the Ice Age, members of Homo sapiens were definitely talking among themselves with complex, sophisticated language. Language allowed humans to share knowledge about new technology, edible plants, and animal migrations. Through spoken language, as well as symbolic activities like rituals, personal adornments, and art, our ancestors created a shared sense of social identity. This allowed them to band together and forge connections beyond their immediate communities. Cooperation wasn't just helpful, it was essential. Now, here's a question that's been debated for decades. If humans were so successful during the Ice Age, why did so many megafauna species go extinct? The woolly mammoth, the saber-toothed cat, the giant ground sloth, and dozens of other species all disappeared around the end of the Ice Age, roughly 12,000 to 10,000 years ago. Today's scientific consensus points to a combination of climate change and human hunting. As the Earth warmed and glaciers retreated, the tundras and grasslands that megafauna relied on for food began to shrink and change. At the same time, human populations were growing and spreading. The most likely explanation is that climate change was the primary driver, with human hunting accelerating the decline of species already struggling to adapt. During the last glacial maximum, which peaked around 25,000 to 18,000 years ago, not everywhere on Earth was equally frozen. Scientists have identified specific refugia, places where climate changes weren't as severe and where species could survive. Recent genetic research published in the journal Nature revealed something fascinating. The hunter-gatherer people who dominated Europe 30,000 years ago, known as Gravettian culture, sought refuge from the Ice Age in warmer places. But only those who sheltered in what is now Spain and Portugal appear to have survived long-term. The Gravettians who survived in Spain mixed with migrants from the east as Europe warmed again almost 15,000 years ago. Then, they swiftly repopulated the continent from Iberia all the way to Poland and the British Isles. Humans survived the Ice Age through adaptability, not luck. While sub-Saharan Africa served as a key refuge, humans also migrated to North America during peak glaciation. Unlike specialized species that went extinct, Homo sapiens were generalists, eating diverse foods, creating sophisticated tools, and modifying behavior to match any environment. Our ancestors thrived during the last glacial maximum, using innovations like bone needles for tailored clothing, strategic hunting, shelters, and cooperation. Remarkably, we're still technically in an ice age, just in a warm interglacial period. All of human civilization happened during this stable warmth, while our ice age ancestors survived far harsher conditions. Their ingenuity, creativity, and determination didn't just keep them alive, it made them stronger. When the ice retreated, Homo sapiens emerged ready to build civilizations and reshape the world.